I want to start off this episode of the Think Bigger podcast with a thank you and an apology to all of the listeners. There has been a delay in the release. The podcast releases consistently weekly, and that has been a minimum of a release date for you guys, and for the flow and for the consistency of it all. And truthfully, it's difficult for me to have to admit that there was delays in the podcast releasing, but there are reasons for that, you know. We talk about so many different subjects and topics and have so many different conversations here. But all of you guys who listen and are consistent listeners know that it's about the human experience. It's about stimulating thought. The entire premise of the Think Bigger project and the Think Bigger podcast is about growth and advancement, maturity, and to stimulate thoughts and conversations, sometimes just within ourselves, or ones that we can have amongst our family and friends and peers and whatnot. But, I'm human, and I have things in my life just as you guys do. And sometimes they're heavy, and sometimes they are time-consuming, and they are fatiguing. And, I'm always thinking. I've always been a thinker. And when you take someone who already thinks and already turns subjects around and situations and is constantly working to be open-minded and allow myself to read your comments and input, and maybe sometimes that has allowed a change in myself in a subject that I brought up, or in a way that I responded to one that you guys asked in Q&As and things like that we talked about. And you take that combined with personal events and a series of them, and it took the wind out of me for a little bit. And there were times where I had even begun working on the next episode, and I stopped because I wasn't in it. And for you guys, I need to be invested. I need to be dedicated. And if it's not right, I just stopped, right? So the thank you part is thank you for your patience. Thank you for being a consistent supporter of the project, listener of the podcast. Thank you for being here right now listening. I appreciate you for your diligence. I appreciate all the commentary, all of the people asking me when's the next episode coming out, all of the people who are supporting this nonprofit movement and organization with their apparel and merchandise purchases. You guys are the only reason why it's going and is growing, okay? Your active support. So with all of that being said, let's get into this. How do you measure your life? How do you measure your life? How do we measure our lives? Okay? Does that question make sense to you? Right now, there's a very strange time in not just this country and in the planet. Every country, essentially, because of this coronavirus. Now, before anyone goes and it's very divisive, it's very polarizing. The minute you bring it up, some people will roll their eyes and say, here we go again. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Okay. Then you have some people who are just like, dude, it's the apocalypse. It's the beginning of the end. It's crazy. Okay. And then you have people who are just like, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. It's like the flu. Just wash your hands. Don't touch your face and you'll be fine. This is not the point of this podcast episode. We are going to do an episode about that. But right now, it just ends up kind of really tying in to this particular subject matter about life and the measurement of life. How do we measure our lives? Because there is a reality that comes to the front of us, and right to the forefront of our minds and in front of our faces. And that reality is death, okay? And that's on the news, it's everywhere, so we wouldn't maybe normally think about it quite so acutely, and definitely not so recurringly, but it's there. This percent, over here it's this percent, it's rising. And so, there is that type of thing going on. But what that did in the midst of all of those personal issues and things that weighed down on me and really had me struggling to put myself together to create another episode, then this whole virus thing kind of comes in and is moving 100 miles an hour, and news and social media, and it just added to the topic, right? So when we're talking about measuring our lives, the Think Bigger project is all about being active in your self-awareness. We all need to be, by the moment, by the hour, by the day, consciously and actively working on the things that we believe need to be worked on. It sounds simple and obvious, but when we don't stay conscious, time disappears. Do you guys understand what I mean by that? We all know it's like, oh, dude, here we go, Monday mood or whatever, right? And then next thing you know, it's just like hump day, and you blink your eyes, you're like, man, this week's going slow, or this week went fast, and it's the weekend. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. Sometimes you blink your eyes and you've been on the Explore page of Instagram for 45 minutes or an hour. We all know, right? Those are just examples. You could do anything. You could be on the conversation with someone that you like, you have a crush on, or someone you're dating or whatever, and an hour, 2 hours goes by and you've just been on the phone together or something like that. You guys know what I'm trying to say. There are times where if you aren't thinking about it, which you don't always have to be thinking about it in those moments, say when you're with someone you love, but the point is you blink your eyes and a certain amount of time has gone. And so if you're not actively using it and aware of it, it is, whether we like it or not, it is disappearing. Time, the way we record our lives, is time. Most of the people measure their life in time, right? Monday's the first day of the week, time to go to work. Hump day, Friday, it's the weekend, what, turn up, right? Jamaican horn, air horn, and then Monday again. That's how most of us are measuring our lives, not just by time, but by the work week and that piece of time, that way of looking at time. And we've talked about that in a previous episode. Why do you really hate Mondays? If you guys haven't listened to that, go back. Why do you really hate Mondays? That's an episode that we are really specifically talking about that type of way of life and working and the measurement of time in that specific way. But life is measured in time in other ways. We all think of it that way. You're having a birthday, right? Birthday is an occasion to celebrate. It's another day, another year of life. I'm this many years old, right? You have days, months, years, birthdays, years of life. That is another and the more common way that everyone measures their lives, by age, by time, okay? My grandmother, my grandfather is this many years old. It's just a normal thing to say, right? Well, I don't like it. And I haven't liked it for a long time. It certainly makes sense. It's very easy to remember. Birthdays are a gift. Birthdays are a blessing because life is a blessing. Celebrating another year of life is entirely different from measuring your life entirely by the time on a calendar and on a clock as it ticks and ticks, okay? So we're talking about aging. We're talking about life and measuring it by time. You talk to these people, the elderly, right? The people who have lived through so much more than we have. And whenever you hear them and you ask them, do you have any advice? You know, someone's on their deathbed, right? And they're with their family or something. God willing, they have people with them. You ask them, what do you suggest? What do you want to leave? What gems of opinion or experience do you want to leave? Nobody ever says, I wish I worked more. Nobody ever says, I wish I spent less time with my family. Nobody ever says, I wish I worked more hours at the job that paid me whatever. Nobody says that. And yet, so many people get to the end of their life and they say, I wish I spent more time with my loved ones. I wish I was there for my kids more. I wish I was a better husband or wife. I wish I ate more foods and tried more things and read more books and learned more and saw more beautiful sights. Those are the things. Those are the regrets. I wish I apologized to someone. I wish I found a way to make something right. Those are the things that people say at the end of their life. Nobody's saying, I wish I didn't see the world. I wish I didn't travel. I wish I didn't love. I wish I didn't. Nobody's doing that about those types of things, okay? They may say, I wish I didn't do something that they regret, right? Such as not making amends with a family member or a loved one. But do you guys see where I'm going? You see what I'm thinking about? There's so many people talking about all of these things, but yet it's still common. It's still the most common thing that you hear at the end of people's lives. And so they're not going to tell you, I wish I didn't love my family. I wish I did try to expose myself to more cultures and learn about peoples and be more tolerant and less stereotypical and bigoted and racist or whatever. Nobody does that, right? But you get to the end of your life and you were so caught up in who knows that you end up saying, I wish I did those things, when we can actively take control of our lives and change the gauge by which we measure it, okay? So we've talked about time, minutes, seconds, minutes, right? Hours, days. That's time. That's the clock, whether it's the work week or not, but that's time. That is the way that people's lives are being gauged, and subsequently when you look back, that would be the way that it would be measured. Now, other people, how do they measure it? What I suggest is we measure our lives in an entirely different way, okay? I suggest that we measure our lives not by time, but by moments. Now, they kind of seem connected, right? Time and a moment, because a moment is a moment in time, but no, I'm talking about moments and memories, okay? I say that we actively, and I mean as of this exact moment, right now, while you're listening, this is, I humbly believe, a very useful way for you to spend your time, is listening, having input, sharing that input on the posts for this specific episode on my IG so we can continue the conversation. I believe that those are productive, healthy, intelligent usages of your time. But we're talking about measuring life, actively measuring it with your moments and the memories that you make what you're doing, who you're with, okay? Because if we're going to talk about it, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but if we're going to talk about it, let's talk about death, because we all die. It's a taboo thing for some people, but it's just the reality. Some people will live a very long period of time. They'll get old, and then they pass away. Some people will not, whether that be because of an accident, because of illness, because of who knows what. But my point is, if you are measuring your life by the time, then if someone dies in their 40s or their 30s, or God forbid, younger, their life was a waste. They were so young. They could have done so much. And those are very powerful, painful, and real sentiments. But what I'm talking about is whether you're 95 or 25, okay? Will you have the same regrets? Imagine that. Imagine if a 25-year-old and a 95-year-old are laying down in a hospital because of I don't know what illness, and they're both close to death. Can you hear it? I wish I did more. One's 25 and one is 95, and you can hear people have that same sentiment. And I say we can change that. Because if we change the gauge at which we measure life, it can be more fulfilling and exciting. There's no time for boredom. Quiet, solitude, being in a house by yourself, that's not boredom. Boredom is a state of mind, okay? I'm talking about measuring life with moments and memories. The moments where you're with your friends, legitimate, real friends, and you guys are just laughing. Okay? That's a moment that anyone should be glad to measure their life by. If someone who's 25 or 95 says, I wish I laughed more, that's sad. So let's laugh more. Let's be around the people and the things that make us laugh. Let's make those moments count. You have to remember, you have to hold on to them. You have to treat the people. Imagine if we all took this type of perspective. Everyone would start actively looking at their loved ones just a little bit more powerfully than they did before. Okay? Cheesiness. People being sentimental and it being quote unquote cheesiness. That whole idea would disappear, because it wouldn't be cheesy for someone to say, to their husband and wife, let's take a nap together. I just want to curl up with you and go to sleep. Just take a nap. I know, guys, some people have children and work, and it's not that simple, but we need to take control of our lives and what we do with them. Okay? So yes, we're all busy. Yes, there's a work week and there's this and that. I get it. But that is then being a victim to society and circumstances, where yes, you do have to make money, but we can still find the moments that define that day or that week. The week should never be defined by what'd you do this week. I went to work. What else? That's about it, man. Did laundry, did groceries, or whatever. I want someone to look back and be like, dude, I went to the park with my kids and they were giggling so hard I couldn't help but laugh. I played a video game with my son. He's getting older and he likes video games. And we just had such a blast playing this game together. Or I surprised my wife with flowers for the first time. You know, we've gotten in this rut. And I just, sometimes I just don't know, what's going on in our relationship, but I love her so much, or I love him so much. I want my husband to know. And that's the way. If I see one of you guys and I'm like, dude, how was your week? I want you to tell me the things that you did for people that you love. I want you to tell me about moments. I want you to tell me about memories. I don't want us to be so stuck in that tick, tick, tick of the seconds that turn into the minutes, that turn into the days of the work week. Life is about moments and memories. It's about the depth of relationships. 25-year-old laying in a hospital bed, 95-year-old laying in a hospital bed next to them, and both of them are going to have people who say, my life was better because of this person, this son, grandson, father, cousin, friend, neighbor, whatever. This person always made me smile. This person always was well-mannered. This person always was a shoulder. This person, etc., etc. Do you see what I'm saying? Or you're going to have people who are not going to say that. What is the impact that you have on the world around you? If you have children, those are your world first and foremost before anyone else. And before, what comes before your children? It's their parents. So we need to treat the people that create the moments and memories. We need to treat them as treasures because they are. Our life is not about our successes. I know right now in this day and age, it's all about being a hustler and having an entrepreneurial type mindset, and everyone's trying to create their own business and everyone's trying to... I understand that, okay? But the dangerous part about that whole hustling mentality and all that is that people gauge their life on their successes in business and in money and in followers and in subscribers and views and viewers and blah, blah, blah. That is where you need to learn how to draw the line, because there's a thin line between that being real and that being internet real. And we've talked about the differences. We've talked about how real that can be. Now, if you are a person who's utilizing social media and all of those various outlets to positively impact people, then that could be one of the greatest tools in the history of man, the internet, and being able to put out and disseminate information, useful information, okay, that impacts people positively. It doesn't entertain them per se. It's not just there for views, but it actually does something for them. So there you go. So I'm not going to just knock the entire premise of followers and views and subscribers, but you all know what I mean. There are people who have a ton of views and subscribers for throwing eggs at people and doing shampoo pranks and running up and trying to kiss girls on the beach and all that type of shit. And even in the car world, there's people who just do stuff to cars. They're not teaching you anything. They're not positively influencing you in any direction. They're just making content and you guys are just watching it. That's not doing anything for the community or for the culture. The argument can be made, well, it's not hurting it. That's a whole different subject. But you guys see where I'm going, right? I'm talking about the impact that we have on our loved ones and those around us. Moments, memories, right? Embracing moments, creating moments of laughter and love, and having these memories where if you end up laying there at 25, 35, 45, 55, or 95, you can lay there in physical pain or not, but in your mind, you are good because you were a good person. You actively worked on being good to those around you, and those people are indebted to you for helping them know how to laugh and smile and be good people, right? That's what I'm talking about. Measuring our lives with the moments and memories that we made with the people that we love, the people that we care about, doing things that matter, that affect positively those around us, having fun, right? Those are the things, right? Those are the things. That's how I believe that we should measure our lives. Because if you do not do it that way, if you do not stop and take a hold, then it's just time. Time is the default. If you are not choosing to measure life differently, then the clock is ticking. Then it's time. that premise of the countdown to the end. Because we're all going to die. There's nothing wrong with saying that out loud. We're all going to die. Everyone dies. But what was your life when you're going to go? What was your life comprised of? What's the measurement? This person touched this many people. Or maybe it's just one. You have one kid or one loved one, one spouse, never had kids. Is that spouse going to say, my life was filled with fun and love and laughter because of them? Or are they going to say that it was hard? We fought a lot. They were stubborn, prideful. They didn't want to apologize. And we had a hard time. People may not want to say that. Think about it. We go to eulogies. You're at a funeral, right? You go to a eulogy. Nobody does a eulogy at a funeral and talks about the bad. Nobody does. Everyone talks about the good because it's improper to bring up the bad at their funeral. But we all have been to funerals. Every one of us has been to funerals where we are looking at the people up there and we're just like, yo, I know that they're not going to say it, but we knew that there was this, and this problem, right? Everyone knows. No one wants to say it, but this person was kind of like this and like that. And, we're here to pay our respects. But what about going to a funeral where everyone's just like, I am heartbroken. Everyone's heartbroken because this person has passed. I know it sounds a little harsh, right? We're talking about death, we're talking about funerals, but this is a reality, right? We are adults and we need to be able to speak on reality. What is your life comprised of? What is it measured by? Now, the dangerous thing is there's also people who measure life by their successes or their objects. If you look at their Instagrams, if you look at their Twitters, Facebooks or whatever, if you look at them, what is the predominant thing they're talking about? Houses, watches, shoe collections, hats, clothes, objects. Trips. I'm on this plane going here. I'm on this beach looking at this sunset. I'm in this country, this, and this, right? Traveling has become a social media thing. It's not about enjoying the moment. It's not about appreciating where you are, okay? We all know what we're talking about. If you spend more of your time trying to take a picture of the sunset than watching it with your own eyes, it doesn't matter if you watched it on a tropical island or if you watched it in the backyard of your own apartment complex or something. It's lost because you're looking at it through your phone to capture it, to share it with other people rather than just sharing it with whoever you're with or enjoying it for yourself. So this is all part of the bigger picture. That's like, for those of you that never really caught that or never talked to me about that, the Think Bigger Project and Think Bigger podcast is all part of TBP Incorporated. Okay. It's all part of the nonprofit. It's all part of the umbrella, right? But the double entendre, the second meaning to TBP is also the bigger picture. We've all heard that saying, you've got to look at the bigger picture. Okay? Because that's what this is all about, right? It's about breaking out of the way we have been told and taught and shown what life is and the rut and the routine of it. Life is about more than the clock ticking while you stare at it for it to get to 5 or 6 p.m. or whatever time you get out of work. We're all sitting there just waiting for it to get out, right? And then rushing to go do something fun. And then, oh no, I have to go to sleep because I have to get up to go back to work. That's that rut, that cycle of time is not what our lives are meant to be about and to therefore be measured by. Because what you're doing now, if you don't change it, then that's what your life is going to be looked at when you look back, right? The end is comprised of the now. The end is comprised of the now. So if you don't change the now, then you know what the end is. if you don't change the now, you know what the end is. Because whatever it is now is going to be what the end is. It doesn't matter if you just started. It doesn't matter if you've been at that job for 20 or 30 years. If you don't change the now, the end is already written for you. You've written it for yourself. That doesn't mean you should up and go quit your job. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your mind. I'm talking about your mind. I know people that do not like their jobs. They get up and go, but their life is not measured by their job. They rush back to pick up their children. They adore their children. They spend every moment they can sitting with them, holding them, reading to them. Or they live for their boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, and who knows, that may lead to the children's story that I just said, but then they live for each other. I know people that just want to be with each other. People think it's sappy and cheesy, and oh my gosh, you guys are oozing with sentimentality and cheesiness. Who cares, man? Give to your loved one. Give to a good person. They give back to you. That's what it's about. We look at all these stories. Everyone thinks it's cute when you see these old people walking down the street holding hands or opening doors for each other, or these old people like trying to go to the concert or a store. This is the world we live in. We live in social media where you can watch moments. Everyone just watches a moment that it gets turned into a meme or it gets turned into a GIF or it gets posted somewhere. But those old people that are making up that picture, they dedicated their lives to each other. And that didn't end there. It started a long time ago. And their life came together to the point where they still have one another. That's not a circumstantial occurrence. That's not an accident. It's not just they were born into the right generation, or we don't know what. Man, stop that. Okay? We have to stop looking at other people's pieces, highlight reels of life. That's what we're getting on social media. You're getting people's highlight reel. You're getting a curated, filtered, edited piece of a moment of life. Do you hear me? We are getting a curated, edited, filtered piece of a moment. Not even a moment. You're getting a piece of a moment. It is hyper real, it is surreal, and it is subsequently unreal. It is not real, okay? There's also an episode called Is the Internet Real? I believe that you all, if you haven't listened to that, find that. The other one we mentioned earlier was Why Do You Really Hate Mondays? And now we're also going back and touching on, is the internet real? Okay? So I beg of you, take the time to go back and listen to those, or take what we're talking about here in life, the measurement of life. How do you live your life? How you live your life is how you will end up remembering it and being remembered. So it starts now because we write the story. We are not victims to circumstances and economies and dynamics and all of these outside factors. They do not dictate and determine who we are, how we live, and what we appreciate and who we appreciate. We can do that. We write the story. Okay? The ending. And everyone says, I don't know how it's going to end. You know, because how you're doing it right now, if you don't change, if we don't take the circumstances of our lives, and if we don't take our mindsets and work on them, we know the ending. The ending's written only because we're living the ending right now. Do you understand what I'm saying? I understand that there's people who believe in destiny. And that's fine. But I believe that we write our destiny. I don't believe that if you just sit at home, that your destiny will happen. I don't believe that if you just do nothing, that your dream person is going to come to you and fall out of the sky. Right? You want to meet someone, you have to put yourself out there. You have to put yourself out there and try. If you're single and you're lonely and you want to meet someone, you cannot sit there and be like, I know that the right one is for me and they're out there and I'm going to just be right here at home. Come on now. Don't be silly. Don't be unrealistic. Okay? The story of our lives, how we've measured the depth of our lives, what is the measurement? Is it the impact, the love that we shared and we experienced and gave? Or is it objects, followers? Because what is everyone actively working on? Are you actively working on gaining more followers? Why? Are you actively working on holding your spouse's hand a little tighter? Hugging your children a little harder? Making eye contact with them and letting the people around you know, your family, your friends, your parents, that you're thankful for what they did for you to get you to where you are, etc. We are in the beginning of the end if we don't change things. Because we don't know the time of the end, right? But we can know what we are doing when the end comes. Even if the end comes much sooner than we'd like it to. If we are in control of what we are doing and saying and being as people in our communities and our cultures, then it doesn't matter when the end comes. There will be no room for regrets because you're working on preventing them or eliminating them or rectifying the existing ones right now. But if you keep putting it off, if we keep putting it off, then the end of the story is already written. At the end of life, what does everyone look back and say? Doesn't matter what age. So the question will then be, what do you want to be saying? Do you want to be saying, I wish I did this, I wish I said that? Or do you want to just do it and say it now? Why not? Why not change the measurement of our life, the ticking away? Why not change that? I welcome the ticking. I'm okay with it. It's hard to say sometimes, but I mean, we never know. This whole coronavirus thing, it's got everyone on edge, right? But there's other things that are going to happen. There's other seasons. There's other viruses. There's other diseases. There's other accidents and traumas. That's life. But we have to be okay with that. There are things that we cannot control. And a lot of times we spend a whole lot of time worried about the things that we cannot control. If you really stop and think about it, there are things that we cannot control. But what are the things that we can? They're right in front of us. And they're right inside of us. It all starts in the way that we think. We have to change the way that we think and think bigger. Change the way that we think. Open our eyes, look past what's right in front of us, and think bigger. Expand the mindset and see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is about our impact on others. It's about how we treated and are currently treating our families and our loved ones, and what type of positive, effect you can have on the culture and on the community. If we're all worried about each other, if we're all doing for each other, can you imagine how the world will evolve, how the world will change? It all starts with one of us, and then two of us, and then three of us. Just the way that a virus is reaching so many people, one person becomes two people, and one person becomes three, and then it just grows and grows. It can be the same with our demeanors. It is the same with our attitudes and the tone of voice that we use. You know, there's different things that people have done, different movements, the pay it forward movement, right? Someone pays for the coffee for someone behind them, or goes in, and we've all heard about that, right? I mean, that premise is not revolutionary, but we can apply that to other things, right? We can apply that to other things. Are you guys with me? Do you understand? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Remember, I very, very, very much value and encourage the interaction. For those of you that are listening on YouTube, there's a comment section. Please type out 50 paragraphs if you wanted to. I have people who message me all the time and they're like, man, I had these thoughts, but I just didn't think that anyone would want to read it because it was really long. Now that's so sad. Type it. Write it out. I don't care how long it takes you. I don't care if you can only get out a sentence or two at a time, and then you end up come back later and add a second comment. It doesn't matter. At least YouTube, there's comments. And my Instagram, I make an Instagram post for each episode so that we have a comment section. Some people don't comment. They DM me. I have these extremely deep, lengthy DMs of just paragraphs of thoughts. Some people don't want to put that in the comments because it's private, but not always. Some of you guys are like, oh, no, it wasn't that it was private. I just thought to DM you. Comment. Let's talk to each other, okay? Let's talk to each other. We're different ethnic and cultural backgrounds, age groups, cultures, countries, right? The other day in the live stream, I had a guy, in my Instagram live stream, I always do that to try to spend some time talking to you guys all over the world, and it was crazy because we had a guy in there talking about, man, who gives a shit? It's not that serious. Everyone just go about your life as normal, drink some oranges, orange juice and lemon water, and you'll be fine. Just laughing at the seriousness of it. And then you have another live stream where a guy comes in from Italy. For those of you that have been paying attention, Italy is being ravaged by this. It's a very tiny country. Look at how small Italy is by size compared to, say, the US or China, right? And he is like begging in the comments. You guys, it's 4 a.m. here in Italy. We've had over 5,000 people die. It's at 70,000 infected. They say by the end of this month, it'll be 90,000, and this many more people are going to die. And nobody's allowed to go anywhere anymore except straight to work and home, and then on limited days or locations to go buy supplies like groceries. And the only other place they're allowed to go to is for health, like medical emergencies. The country's on lockdown, and he's like, I'm not trying to scare all of you guys in other parts of the world, but please, I beg of you, don't go out, don't spread it, just stay at home and let it die itself out. You have somebody who's in here like, I'm not trying to scare you, but please don't go out, everyone just stay home. And you have people in the live stream that are in a country that just don't really know how to relate to that, because they don't take it seriously, because it doesn't look like that here, right? Everyone just is sort of clowning the panicking and the why are people buying so much stuff? And they're just like, oh. And there was like a tone and a vibe change in the live stream, because you are now not in a position to make light of it when there's somebody in real time from an area, in this particular case Italy, that is experiencing the real savage effects of when you have something attack a cluster of people. And it put it into perspective in a way that I think other people have a hard time doing, because we are bombarded by so much information and statistics and photos and jokes and memes all mixed in with real news and fake news and all this stuff that people are just flat out jaded and nobody really knows. But when you have a person who's telling you, please, before it gets like this in your country, don't go out. Just stay home, let it die out. But people don't want to do that. And so you have this spread that's going to continue. And the point of me bringing that up is nobody knew it was going to happen. But here we are. Everybody thinks that it's not a big deal until it reaches someone they know. So whether it be a virus or a war or someone texting while driving and they run a light and take you out, that happens all the time too. My point is, life is what we make it. We can either end our life with regrets, or we can end our life with a smile on our face, because we know that the people that we are remembered by are going to remember love and positivity and compassion and unselfishness. We know that we know how the end will go because we are writing the story. That's the difference. We are the ones who are holding the pen, writing the story. And that is right now. That is right now at this moment. When you listen to this live stream, and I mean this podcast, if you see me in a live stream and you want to comment there, comment on the YouTube comments, comment on the Instagram comments. We can continue the conversation even for the people that are shy. They may see you type out a comment and me respond or something like that, and that might have been the nudge they needed to then share. You see? Remember, it's about the community and it's about the culture and it's about all of us working with each other. And that's really, really the premise and what I'm all about with you guys. You know, for those of you that have met me in person, I travel to so many places and I'm able to go East Coast and, West Coast and the Pacific Northwest and the South and the UK and Europe and Asia, and all of that has been put on hold for nobody knows how long. Okay? So the biggest part of my life is spending time in the community and the culture that I love, hosting these events, being with you guys, and being able to spend time with you oftentimes in person. That's been taken away. Okay? And that's just an example of what I'm talking about. Everyone's suffering financially. I'm taking a massive hit because that's all work, But my point is it's about the community and it's about the culture and how we do and what we do for each other. And the entire point of the brand and the movement and the company of the Think Bigger Project and this branch of it, the Think Bigger Podcast, is to provide the community and the culture with positive stimulation that guides it in a progressive, positive direction. So I am working on my story, and I want everyone to work on theirs, because we know the end because we are writing it right now. What we do right now is what our lives are going to be measured by. We are in control of that. Do not let time be in control of you. Do not let yourself feel like a victim to time. The clock's ticking. Oh man, I blinked my eyes. It's already March of 2020. We've all said that every time. I can't believe this week is almost over. I can't believe this year is almost over. Man, this just started. It was just Y2K. Now it's 2005. Now it's 2010. Now it's 2020. Look at what kind of craziness has comprised the first 3 months of 2020. We have things that we cannot control, but there are things that we can control. We can control the way that we think. We can control the things that we do. We can control the things that we say. We can control what we do for others and how we treat others and what we do for the bigger picture, the larger image of which is the community and the culture. If we all started doing that, imagine the change. And it's begun. The I appreciate you movement. Many of you use that. You guys know that's a powerful thing to say to someone, right? Instead of just thank you, you look at someone and you say, I appreciate you. That's powerful, right? There's that, thinking bigger. I get messages from people all over the country and the world saying, thank you for this episode, that episode. You guys, that's what it's all about. It's us coming together to advance ourselves. There's actually a new design coming out. It's called Advance, Improve, Ascend. Advance, Improve, Ascend. Right? You guys know that word? Like you're climbing a mountain, ascend to the top. Right? If we're all doing that, not just for ourselves, but for others, we're going to advance the culture. We're going to advance the community. Right? I know there's still new people. There's new listeners every week. And some of you are still coming in from the automotive community and you're just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I still get messages about I did not expect this. You guys, cars are a deeply, deeply rooted part of my life. The traveling I do is for and with the automotive community and culture. But you guys, in the end, that's one piece of life. I don't think anybody wants to be at the end of their life, whatever age that may be, and say, I had a lot of cars. That's just part of life. Yes, there is camaraderie and community and friendship and laughter to be had with them, but that's still just one piece of our lives. Are you with me? We do not know how we're going to go. Nobody does. We don't know. We do not know how we are going to go. We do not know when we are going to go. But what we do know, what we can know, if we take control of it, is what we will feel and say whenever the end comes. How did this person live? How do you measure the life that you've lived? Do you measure it in time? I lived so long, or I lived so short and I didn't even do what I wanted to. I lived so long and I lived so short. I wish I did or said this to them. I wish I went and did more, loved more, etc. Is it the time? 25 years old? 95 years old? Is it the time? Or is it the moments and the memories that you are going to be able to lay there and remember your life by? Everyone says when they're having an accident, right? My life flashed before your eyes. If your life flashed before your eyes, would you like what you saw? We're in control of that. We're not victims to life and to time. Remember that. That's the point I want to continue driving home with you guys. It sounds repetitive, but I mean, think about it. Think about the way we're living right now. If we don't change that, that is the end. That's the ending of the book. So, once again, I deeply, deeply love and appreciate all of you for listening, for being patient during this hiatus. Like I talked about in the beginning of the podcast, I have had some very personal issues, health and emotional and things like that. I'm a very private person. So on a very personal level, as your host, I work more on the broader picture, the bigger picture, the subject matter that we talk about. And I've just never wanted to put out something half-assed. And I needed time. I needed to regroup. I needed time to think, because I'm human just like you guys, and I struggle, and I have things that I need to turn around in my head and I need to work on. And in the midst of all of that, I need and want the quality the depth of the entire Think Bigger project and podcast. It needs to be to a certain level, and I didn't want to just be half in it and distracted. So I just took a break, and I fell back a little bit and just sat back and kind of needed some time for myself. And then you have the coronavirus and all of this craziness that's going along with it that kind of came in, and it's just taken everyone by storm, whether it be the toilet paper jokes or the people who are starting to take it seriously and go shopping, and then they're stuck for 3 hours when it would normally take them 20 minutes, and it's getting worse and worse and worse, and the numbers keep going up. And I just said, this is an example, and I let it be like a catalyst to get me back to a point where I could produce this episode of how do we measure our lives, right? In other words, what do our lives consist of? Okay? And I needed some time, guys, and I'm back with you. Recurring, consistent weekly podcast episodes are going to drop. And if there is ever a time where you do not see it, then you need to try to remember this. I ask you to try to remember it might just be something personal and something very real. It would never be something small, trivial. It would never be I got lazy and I don't want to do it. That is never what it will be. When it comes to the podcast, this is our opportunity to stimulate the collective mind, right? We have broken well into the 5 digits of downloads from all over the world. The people right now listening are from all over the world. Tens of thousands of downloads. It is deeply amazing to see the statistics. And it just goes to show that if you have noble intentions, when you care and you want to put out positivity in the midst of all the stupidity that's out there, positivity, intelligence, and growth still resonates with a massive amount of the population, even though that is diminishing because they're being dumbed down by social media and stupidity of reality TV and stars and just nonsense, right? There is still a very real hunger for growth and intelligence. And that's what the Think Bigger podcast is all about. It's not about cars. It's bigger than that. It's about life. It's about the human experience. And this episode, it's just, you guys, we are in control of our lives. We are in control of the ending of our stories whenever that may come. I know it might sound dramatic, but we all know and have had friends or family that have been sick. We all know that right now there really is a 25-year-old laying in a hospital bed, and there really is a 95-year-old. And unfortunately, there is also a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old that's laying in a hospital bed. And there's also a 95, 85, 70, you guys, any age. So the 25 and the 95 are just examples. Whenever you are going to go, what will you be remembered for? Who will you be remembered by? And what would you have done for the community and the culture or your family? Are you going to be, that's that guy who had a lot of followers on social media? Are you going to be the guy who had a lot of cars? Are you going to look back and say, man, I killed it with all the cars I built? Nobody is doing that when they are dying. People come to a quick conclusion and they start it with regrets. I wish I had, I wish I had, I wish I had said, I wish I had done. And we can stop that cycle for ourselves and for our loved ones and our family, because you can lay there and you can smile and say, I love you. I loved all of you. The community and the culture knows that I cared, etc. That's not too profound. That's not dramatic. That's not beyond you. I know that there's teenagers listening right now, and you might be like, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm just a kid. No, man. It's not about reaching the globe. It's about reaching the people closest to you. Being good to your mothers and your fathers and your siblings, and them knowing that you love them. And that's what it's about, you guys. That's what it's about. How do you measure your life? Do you measure it in time, or do you measure it in the moments and the memories that you make for yourself and for those that you love? Okay? Think Bigger Project. Think Bigger Podcast. I love and appreciate all of you. I beg of you, do not hesitate. Do not procrastinate. Comment. Let's interact and talk about this, okay? I look forward to the next episode with all of you, okay? Take care of you guys. Be safe. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Sounds silly and simple, but it is silly and simple, so just do it. Thoroughly wash your hands. Don't go out if you don't have to. Not right now. And we'll get through it together, okay? All right, I appreciate you all deeply. God bless you.